Well, hello everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever in this beautiful world you are. And I'm delighted to have with me again here on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. One of my definitely favorite ladies, Andi Bond. How are you, gorgeous? So good
I'm
to see you again.
You too. I'm doing well, thank you.
Can you turn your sound up a little bit?
My sound up? Yeah, let me
Yeah.
see. Is that better at all?
Yeah, it seems as you get closer, it gets better.
Okay.
So, but it's fine. It's not blurry or anything. It's just a little bit softer. But
Okay.
anyway, so really good to have you back. Thoroughly enjoying our conversations that we're having. Really, really good. So today's topic, which of course is absolutely one of my favorites, which is the body is a resonance chamber. So I'm really, really looking forward to hearing this because wow, was so, I mean, ever since I can remember, and anyone who knows me and who's worked with me will know I'm always saying, I'm always on about how precious the body is, how intelligent the body is. Without the body, for starters, we cannot express ourselves in the physical realm to begin with. It is my firm belief the body is the manifestation of spirit. Can't be another way, in my opinion. So, really loving the topic today and really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it. So, over to you, beautiful Andi.
Well, thank you so much, Chantel. And yeah, I'm very honored and excited to share the information. I put together a little presentation that shows just how powerful sound and especially prayer, we're going to ultimately at the end of this little journey end up in seeing the actual physical effects of sound and prayer. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mornay, what should I do? I'm just wondering if he was going to maybe share the screen or.
Yeah. Mornay's in the back room, guys. Ever faithful. Doing his thing.
I'm just wondering. Oh, share screen. Maybe I share screen.
Yes, you share screen. That's what he's saying. And this, I'm really looking forward to this because, wow, guys, this is sacred information. Honestly, the stuff you're sharing right now.
Okay, can you see?
Yeah. No, not yet. I don't see anything.
You don't see anything?
No, not from what you're sharing.
Okay. It's making me. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm not sure if this is going to work. We might need Mornay to share the screen. Google
Can
Chrome
you
is
do that?
giving me a little bit of problem.
Okay,
I
Mornay
sent it.
says it. There he comes in. So there we go.
Yeah,
Sorry for
good job.
guys.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mornay, to the rescue. Okay, so yeah, I'll just let you know when to move forward. But basically, this is a little presentation that I put together on the fact that the human body is actually a resonance temple. It's a resonance chamber. And I wanted to give a little overview of how it works. So the next slide, Mornay. If we can just go ahead and first play this little TikTok video. It's going to give a lot of very interesting information.
Here's a secret that's been kept by cathedrals for a long time. This right here is your DNA. This at the top is your DNA from a top-down view. These geometric shapes that you see is what we call sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is an ancient study that explains energy patterns. Like this turtle right here. If you look to the right, what you see here is a sand plate that's connected to some type of instrument that can send out frequency. Now let's just say the instrument is a piano, and when I hit one of the notes on the piano, it shifts the sand into these specific geometric shapes. This is called cymatics, the study of visible sound. You can also do this with liquids. Now here's a picture of cymatics in water, top-down view of DNA, and church windows. Notice they are almost identical. Now, how many times have you drove past a church window like this and wondered how the fuck did they come up with that design? They didn't. It's in your DNA. Now, here's something very interesting. Everything has a resonant frequency, which basically means everything has its own frequency. Now, a lady did an experiment where she set up a mic in the church like this and recorded the silence. She then set up speakers to play that silence so that it would go back into the mic and keep creating a louder and louder and louder sound, to the point to where it was strong enough to show up cymatically. Now, when she played that sound through water, it created these shapes cymatically. And to her surprise, the same shape the sound of the church was making was what the shapes of the windows inside the church looked like. There's only one group of people I know who can build at that level. But anyway, now remember, buildings have their own resonant frequency, which means that when you're in the building, your body is being interacted with those frequencies. So if your body is made of 60 to 80% water, and this is what water looks like when it's vibrating, that means whatever shape is made by the sound of the church is the shape that your DNA is taking form of. I believe these cathedrals are designed to create healing frequencies to make you feel good when you're inside of the church. This could be part of the reason why people feel good when they enter a church, not realizing the church is emitting its own healing frequency in alignment with the instruments that are being played by uplifting music scales.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's a little bit of an overview of what we're going to get into today, and I'm very excited to kind of do a little bit more of a breakdown. So the first place that we're going to go to is this next one, which is this YouTube video, The Amazing Resonance Experiment. This is going to show what he was talking about how the different sound patterns are created at different frequencies. And the way that they did this is they put a plate. I think it might be, I don't know, I think it might be iron or something. It's basically a flat surface with salt on it. And then through the speakers, they pump different vibrations, different frequencies in hertz that are measurable. And you'll see as they increase the frequency, the shape of the sound becomes more and more complex. So if you want to go ahead and play that one, Marne.
Wow.
Yeah. So as you can see, each specific frequency has a specific shape that corresponds to it. If you want to go to the next slide, Mornay.
You know, when we look at stuff like that, the
There we go.
evidence is irrefutable. You know, we can't deny that this exists. Look at that.
Mhm.
Wow.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the physical human body into this equation. Um, and so what you see here on the left is a map essentially of the energetic fields and how they flow through the human body. And basically, so according to the Vedic knowledge, there are 72,000 subtle nervous channels that run through the body. And according to this knowledge, these are called nadis. In
Nadi, yeah.
Chinese medicine, they are called meridians. Okay. Where three or more of these energetic crisscross, three or more of the energetic channels cross is called a marma point. And there are 100 and, well, it's debated a little bit in the Vedas, but there are said to be 108 marma points. Some say there are 117 marma points in the human body. And as we move forward, you're going to see that each one of these has a specific sound that corresponds to it. And then
So
the
you're
picture on
saying
the
that every mama point, are we saying every mama point has a sound? So
yeah,
that's where three or more of the energies crisscross and meet. It forms a specific resonance, which obviously has its own specific sound at the meeting point.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
exactly. And then on the right side, you're going to see basically what is the shape of the electromagnetic field. Now, it's very interesting because this can be very, very, very heavily influenced by emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems that when there are three sort of main energetic centers of the spine. There's the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, and the cervical spine. When
Mm-hmm.
when the nervous system is kind of flowing as one, essentially it connects the whole thing in the heart, in the center of the heart. So many ancient teachings and even modern science institutes today, such as heart math, have actually discovered that the heart is really the center, command center for the whole
Mm-hmm.
human body. And when
Yeah.
the whole system is linked up together, it creates almost like a toroidal field around the physical body, and the electromagnetic field gets much bigger when the whole system is connected and operating as one, and especially when you are feeling the emotions of love or compassion or joy. The electromagnetic field that's produced around the physical body is much larger.
That's what we call the expansion, obviously, right? So and I think that would then be what in the Eastern teachings, when they talk about the heart is the brain, actually, that's right, because when we start leading with the heart in the true sense of the word, when you've integrated this knowledge and understanding, your frequency then vibrates at a much more expanded level. So you
Yes.
now truly operate from a place of love. And that's when things become possible, right? When the impossible or the seemingly impossible suddenly becomes possible.
Yeah. You literally it's shown almost what happens is it creates like a pumping mechanism of energy in the heart. and that flows along the hands as well. So literally what starts to happen in your physical body and the electromagnetic field around your physical body is that it literally vibrates at a different frequency. And why is that important? I'm showing kind of how that actually has an effect on every single thing around you. So the next slide, Mornay. Yeah, thank you. So this is going a little bit more in detail about how this whole system of our human body is structured. And if you see, it's a very similar one on the left that we saw before with all of the subtle nervous channels running through the body. But then you also see these 7 kind of main energetic centers called chakras. And these are measurable sort of, you can call them, what's that word? A nexus, like a nexus where many of these crisscrossing channels come together. And it also, they are nexuses of nerves along the spinal column as well. And they each have a musical note that they correspond to. So starting at the base of the spine, it goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So this is exactly the musical scale. This is this entire octave. So as you can see, the higher in the frequency, or even you can say the higher up the musical scale you go, the higher the vibration, and the further up along the spinal column that's located. And then on the right, you can see basically a little bit of what I was talking about, how the top and the bottom main centers, like the cervical spine and then the lumbar spine, they almost have their own shape to them. But then if you join them together, it creates an even sort of bigger electromagnetic field. The picture below that with the sort of woman and man standing next to it shows how the of everything is repeated over and over and over and over in nature. In this sort of central column with 2 different of these sort of vortexes of energy coming out. It's the same pattern that we see in the electromagnetic fields of the Earth. And then if you go down, you'll see the electromagnetic field or the shape around an actual galaxy. And then below that, you'll see how those 2 shapes also form around the ecliptic, or basically that's the galaxy again, but from a much longer distance. And it's echoed in the human nervous system, as well as trees and cells. So it's really beautiful to start to see how these patterns flow through us, just like they do through all of nature, including solar systems and galaxies. Yeah.
Wow.
Any questions?
No, I'm just,
So
it makes such sense to me, and as you're saying as well, the different patterns, the different vibrations that flow through us. And, it just shows how finely tuned we are. It just shows what a miracle we really are. And when we take care of this beautiful resonance chamber, I mean, anything is possible. I love this. It makes so much sense to me. It really does.
That's so okay. So the next slide, we're going to see what happens when you start to combine water and emotion and sound. So if you want to play the Dr. Emoto, if you guys are familiar with Dr. Emoto, he did some very, very famous experiments around water. And this is a brief snapshot of his work, but it shows how the water and the vibrations work together, as well as emotion, how emotion affects the water and the vibrations as well. So if you want to go ahead and play that one.
This next series of photographs are the work of Japanese researcher Mr. Masaru Emoto from his book, The Message from Water. Mr. Emoto's work provides factual evidence that human vibrational energy, thoughts, words, ideas, and music affect the molecular structure of water. Please remember that water comprises over 70% of a mature human body and covers the same amount on our planet. Water is the very source of all life. This photo shows the beautifully formed geometric design of the Yushi Spring water. This next photo is from the Shimanto River, the last clean spring in Japan. Notice the extraordinary geometric forms. The fact that the molecular structure of water can be affected by our consciousness, our intent, and our sounds is extremely important. This photo is from the Mount Cook Glacier in New Zealand. Mr. Emoto has been visually documenting these molecular changes in water by means of his photographic techniques. He freezes droplets of water, then examines them under a dark field microscope that has photographic capabilities. His work clearly demonstrates the diversity of the molecular structure of water and the effects of the environment upon the structure of the water. This photo is from the fountain in Lourdes, France. This photo is from contaminated water from the Yodo River in Japan. In this photo, we can compare the contaminated water with clean stream water. Look at the difference. Mr. Emoto decided to see what effects music would have upon the structure of water. He placed distilled water between two speakers for several hours while playing different music and then photographing the crystals that formed after the water was frozen. This photo is of water being exposed to Beethoven's Pastorale. This photo is the effect of Bach's Air for the G-string on the water. This photo is water exposed to Chopin's Farewell Song. This next photo is water being exposed and affected to music that was designed for healing. This photo is of water being exposed to the Kawachi folk dance. This photo shows the effect of heavy metal music upon the water. Here now we can compare the effects of healing versus heavy metal music and what happens to the water molecules. Mr. Emoto decided to see how thoughts and words affected the formation of untreated distilled water crystals by typing words onto paper and then taping this paper onto glass bottles overnight. This photo shows the effects of the words, "Thank you." This next photo shows the effects of the words, "love" and "appreciation." This photo shows the effects of the words, "You make me sick, I will kill you." And here we can compare the effects of "thank you" with the "you make me sick, I will kill you." Very, very different geometric forms being incurred through the intention. Now this photo is of a very polluted and toxic water from the Fujiwara Dam. Here now is the same water from the Fujiwara Dam after a Buddhist monk had offered a prayer over it. Prayer, that sound coupled with intention, seems to have an extraordinary ability of restoring water to its natural, harmonious, geometric symmetry. And in this photo we can compare the toxic water and then the effects of praying over the water.
Okay, and then the next one, I want to give you guys a lot of visual explanations or visual representations. This next one, the music in Cymatics, you don't have to play the whole thing, Mornay, but you guys, I wanted to show, this one's a really good visual representation of music and its effect on different materials. Oh, the other one. Can we do the other one first, Mornay? Sorry, thanks, guys. The one with the one right before that one. And then
Wow.
and then real quick, so you can see how the actual shape of all those different sounds. And I wanted to give first that example, which is more of the sort of electronic type of a vibe compared to the next one, which is the solfeggio frequencies. And this is the actual solfeggio frequencies filtered through water. And that's the other one, Mornay, that's a little longer that maybe we can just kind of skip through a little bit. And you can see that, again, as the frequency goes higher, higher numbers, the sound goes higher and the patterns become more and more complex. Do you have that one, Mornay, the other one?
I don't want to be funny, but I think our stream just got blocked. I don't think we're live anymore. Stream unavailable. Your stream has been temporarily blocked because we detected copyright audio.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's showing me, can our people just answer? Because it's showing me that we're still broadcasting.
I'm on my phone, we're not live. Let me see if I can chat. Got blocked. To see if people can see.
Yeah, it says live on my end.
Yeah, I'm here on live as well, but it says stream unavailable. Okay, here we go again. Going live.
Okay. Are we back? Are we back?
Yes, we're back. Can you do the solfeggio one, Mornay?
Sorry, guys, having a little fun with YouTube.
Keith, they said we were violating copyright or something with the sound we were playing.
Oh, okay.
Just to answer the questions. So we're back. Okay. I hear no sound though. Is it not supposed to have sound?
It doesn't have a lot of sound. It's very,
Okay.
This one's very subtle. If you want to just kind of scroll, forward a little bit so you can see these different patterns that start to take shape at the higher and higher vibrations. And kind of just the difference between what the different music is like or the different sounds are like. You know, they actually have a physical form to them.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, these things are irrefutable. And, you know, especially that Dr. Emoto, I mean, I remember when his book, The Hidden Messages in Water, first came out years ago, It was just the most incredible thing. And understand, as you say, our body has 70% water,
Yeah,
which are related to
exactly.
emotions as well. So when our emotions are in tune, the water in our body takes on the healthy shape of crystals.
Yes.
Wow, look at
And
that.
then if you remember back to the cathedral windows, you know,
Yes.
perhaps originally they are meant to be healing structures, because as you can see that the shape of the building actually has an effect on the actual vibrations in the air. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible.
And
Okay.
that's amazing because, if we go back to just looking at the cathedral, the church, the windows and stuff, if you look at Tartaria, when you're going back and you're looking at Tartaria and you're seeing how the ancients actually built these structures, and they weren't actually didn't have windows in originally. They just had those shapes, which makes or glass rather, which of course would make even that much more sense, with because shaping with the human DNA and our frequency, if you will, and obviously being in those places and the sound that is elevated through the organs as well. Those
Mhm.
high frequency sounds. It's incredible. It
Yeah.
really is incredible.
Yeah.
So, so I'm just thinking about that. What he was saying about being in the churches. That going back to the first little video we watched, when he says being in the church, you have those shapes, you have the sound of the organ and stuff, and you have people together all vibrating on that level. I mean, that would be a big reason then that people would often feel good in those
Yeah.
places. No?
Creates a whole
Wow.
field of energy that has, as you can see, an actual vibration and resonance to it. Now, the next step that I'm going to add into this little equation is more of the human body and how the ancient languages seem to have really known this and are built in order to really reconnect the nervous system, or use essentially um, the technology of the sound encoded into the nervous system in order to heal and to use for multiple different purposes. So if you want to go to the next slide, Morning, thank you. Yeah. So this is a map. I wanted to give a little bit of a just overview, high level overview of how the Sanskrit language actually works. Um, I've spoken many times about the fact that it's an actual technology. So on the right side of the slide are the actual marma points, where they're located. So it shows all of these energetic centers. Remember, a marma point is where 3 or more of the nadis overlap. And again, just keep it in mind that they all have a unique sound to them. So the Sanskrit alphabet consists of 50 letters or 50 sounds that are really, what it said where this language came from is essentially listening to the sounds in nature, listening and repeating the sounds in nature. So they are kind of the very base, very building blocks, sonic building blocks of essentially the code that underlies all of the laws of nature. So pure impulses of consciousness that reside at the source of all creation. They are primordial sounds, building blocks of matter. And they are the actual, they're like the ingredients that this sound plus this sound equals this shape, and that corresponds to an actual form in nature. They each resonate with a particular animal kingdom or celestial realm, and they each open a specific channel in the physical or the subtle body, and they activate specific clusters of nerves as well along the spinal column. And they're very reflective of nature. So the 16 vowels correspond with the phases of the moon. The 25 consonants are the 5 elements times the 5 senses. The 4 semivowels represent the 4 directions. We've got 3 syllables that are the Trinity, and the 2 final letters that represent polarity. And then Ayurveda, which is the system of healing and medicine that comes from this knowledge. This is, like I was saying, there's a map of the subtle marma points on the body. You'll hear it said 107, but then you, as the consciousness, would be the number 108. So there are 108 marma points on the surface that connect all of these channels. And then there are some that say there are 117. So there's sort of a disagreement going on for a long time. And then each marma point has a Sanskrit syllable associated with it. When a Sanskrit syllable is pronounced perfectly, it sends an energetic current through the marma point, enlivening its pathway to invigorate the core of the central nervous system. So this
makes such perfect sense. It absolutely just makes such perfect sense what you're saying. And that's why it's so important to look after our bodies.
Yes, absolutely. And the next slide, Mornay, I think goes a little bit, I'm going to give you guys a little bit more. Yeah, here we go. So this is, there's a text in the Vedic knowledge that's called the Mandukya Upanishad. And essentially where the Upanishads came from, what were a result of students studying this knowledge with a teacher and doing, these practices, different breathing techniques and things like we were talking about last time. And then after they studied for a year, they got to ask questions. So one of the questions was, what is Om? Why do we say Om, and how do we say Om? And so this, according to this way, it's taught that this actual mantra or sequence of sounds is a purification tool for the central nervous system. And the reason that is because, as I've demonstrated, the sounds actually live in different parts of the body. So these sounds, the ah plus the oo plus the m sound, that sounds like a buzzing of a bee. It's like it corresponds to the pineal. These correspond to the different parts of the nerve of the spinal column. So the ah, literally that sound resonates with the lumbar spine, and the oo sound resonates with the thoracic spine or the heart center. You say the sound ooh, you feel it. You feel where the sound lives. And then that M with the dot over it is the sound that corresponds directly to the pineal gland. And when you make that sound, it starts to actually help to decalcify the pineal gland, which, when you make these all together, helps to literally connect the nerves of the spinal column, or in this knowledge, it's called the Sushumna Nadi, or the central column. So, and these all correspond to, like it says, 3 functions in the natural world, and those functions are creation. Ah corresponds to creation, which, isn't it interesting? That's actually the part of the body where creation happens as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
The oo is the energy or the vibration, the sound that represents maintenance. And the way things happen in the world is something's created, and then in order for it to be maintained, there has to be love for it, or else it will not go to anywhere else. And then the M with the dot represents these sort of more subtle realms of consciousness in the mind, that have to do with destruction, destruction of a current paradigm, and then transformation of that paradigm so that the next one can start. You know, we constantly going through these cycles. Something's created, it's maintained for a while, and then it dissolves, and then something new is created. We get very attached to, we want things to stay in a certain way forever. But it's the natural cycle for things to be created, be maintained for a while, and then dissolve and transform to the next thing. So that's what these sounds actually represent and correspond to. And when you make those sounds, it's creating a resonance, a vibration in the central nervous system that has a direct physical effect on the physical body, the emotions, and the thought patterns in the mind as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the next slide, and then I think we're just about finished, is I just wanted to show you guys some more actual examples of what the prayers sound like when, and so you can see the difference between the different types of music and the different shapes. And so if you want to do the monks chanting the Om, Mornay, please. Thank you. And then finally, the Native American prayer. Thank you. So yeah, that gives a really good visual picture of what's actually happening with the monks and then the native prayers. You can see that it's basically combining all of the things that we talked about before, the frequency, the vibration, the sound, where it lives in the nervous system, combined with water, combined with intention, brings these unbelievably beautiful patterns. And so you can
Wow.
see that your prayers have an actual effect on your physical body and everything around you. These so the more that you the more that's why a lot of the native and also Vedic healing practices are around singing prayers. Or, for example, a lot of native traditions have something called sweat lodge, where you literally go into a lodge that has heated up water, and the elders of the tribe will sing these native prayers, and it has an actual purification effect on the body. So these things are very powerful and they're very profound. And when you start to see the actual shape that your words plus your thoughts plus your emotions, now connected to spirit, have a literal physical effect on not only you but every single thing around you. And a lot of this knowledge essentially was kept from people. Why? Because it's very empowering. If you're able to use these natural modalities that are in alignment with, all of the laws of creation and God's divine plan, God's divine laws, then you really don't have much need for pharmaceuticals anymore. You see, so these things, although they tend to be quite foreign, especially in our more Western culture, they have real science that is provable and repeatable behind them. This is not, it's not just something
Absolutely.
made or grabbed out of the air. So
You know,
hopefully
this,
that gave like a visual, explanation and
yeah.
demonstration of those things. Yeah.
And this is why I always say, the body is designed to heal itself, because any illness or ailment in the body is really a blockage of energy that is not flowing and vibrating in harmony. So it's become stagnant and therefore forms this blockage or obstacle, if you will, through which the energy you can't express, you can't hear, you know. So it's so amazing that when we understand just by tuning in and understanding how things work, we just automatically align with that and it's available to us. Knowledge is power. And I truly believe that, by understanding these things more and more and realizing how precious our bodies are, then we can stop treating them like a garbage dump. So many people really just think the body, well, it's temporary and there's a pill for everything, whatever. I'll just live life to the fullest now and hit it and I'll just be fine. Um, the more we respect ourselves, and that doesn't mean we've got to live like monks. You can have a very joyful life and enjoy lots of things and lots of things to eat and drink and what have you without abusing your body. And, that's why I say, so to really treat it for the temple as well as the amusement park that it is, because I see my body as both, we could really. And what I want to say as well, I know Carmen and Mona, you guys were talking about when with the water experiment, and who could really go and say to something, "I hate you," or a plant or whatever. It's not just that. Also, what these experiments have shown, and I did this experiment with my son kids' teacher training. We did it with a rice, okay? It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be going to the one and saying, I love you, you're beautiful, and the other one, I hate you, you're awful. You can do that just as the experiment. I understand that you don't really want to be saying that to something or someone, but by ignoring things as well. You ignore your plants at home. you just ignore your animals, you ignore your children. You know, by ignoring your body, by ignoring your emotions, by ignoring what your needs are, you yourself are creating that negative resonance within your own body. So, you know, what we're doing here, and I think, and also what we did incidentally with the Sun Kids training, we used rice. And one of the teachers had the rice at her TV set, and
Hmm.
that rice within days went moldy. That was
Wow.
very, and that just shows you as well what the frequencies that we're using are doing to our bodies and doing to the food that we put into our bodies. Because you got to think how many of us microwave our food or don't even think twice about unplugging the television. I mean, thank God I haven't had one for years. Or your computer or your cell phone, you know, stuff like that. All these frequencies, these negative frequencies that we put out there really are not good for us. So we ourselves, by thinking happy thoughts, being in a positive space, expressing that in a beautiful way, working from the heart resonance, we then radiate our energy naturally, automatically. It just occurs of itself, and then you vibrate on a higher frequency, and then you hear, feel, smell, sense, all of these things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not only that, it illustrates the importance of what you take in the form of music or in the form of words coming into your body, people that you surround yourself, you know, environments that you put yourself in, and on the other hand, as well, the power of prayer to affect the physical reality. You know, like the Dr. Emoto experiment showed the polluted water before and after prayer, that there is an actual effect that if you pray over your water and pray over your food, it literally affects it. You
Well,
know?
yes, it does. It changes the molecular structure. And, you know, we
Mm-hmm.
must remember as well that really you can taste food, whether you can taste a hamburger that's come from a fast food joint or that someone has made for you with love and care, right? You can taste that, and honestly, and that food that you ingest, that we call it the cardboard food, that food that it's literally like eating cardboard, and your cells like become cardboard, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start ingesting food that is cooked with love, water, I mean, I have my singing bowls and I play it over my water. You know, I literally go and play
Mm-hmm.
it over my water that I drink.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing what a difference it makes. I should actually try it in my bath water as well, see what happens there. I might just levitate.
Well, let me know. That would be fun. So you figure out how to levitate. That'd be fun. But the thing is that's very interesting is, you know, basically I wanted to give sort of the building blocks or the ingredients of how this all works together. And then when you start to experiment within yourself, you'll start to see the effects. Like I've experimented with it, for example, where I'll take the tuning app, the guitar tuner, and then I'll tune my voice to a certain note that corresponds to a certain part of the body. If I'm feeling pain, for example, and let's say I'm having a sore throat, I'll find the note that corresponds to this musical note that corresponds to this part of the body, and you know I'll pray in that chord or in that note, and I have seen and experienced very real direct effects from that. So it's something
Wow.
that, you know, with kind of all these little different pieces of the puzzle, everyone can start to play around with it, you know. And so it's just something to be very aware of, the as far as the sounds that you're allowing into your body and the sounds that you're forming with your body, and also the power that we have to create harmonious sounds in a way
Yeah.
that, you know, we have a lot more at our disposal with these simple natural tools, breath and sound. They combined with the Holy Spirit and the power of prayer. This is one of the ways that prayer literally can heal.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The intention, right? It's that getting that intention and the alignment and the intention, and then that connection, because then prayer doesn't become a begging experience. It becomes a joyful, receptive, grateful, humbling, amazing experience, right? It's not a please, please, please. It's a wow.
It's more of like tuning your instrument to the pattern of God, to the
Yes,
pattern of
absolutely.
praise. When
Yes.
it's like, okay, I'm gonna make these sounds that align me with my heart, and that's really where we tap into the entire connection to the divine spark. It's how we access God. It's here. It's not
Yeah,
through the thinking mind, really. And so when
absolutely.
we can start to, think of coming into the same pattern as that, it's it's like going from one octave to a whole another octave, of
Makes
that
perfect
sound.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Wow, what a beautiful, brilliant discussion. And I'm just looking here that Pink Floyd says that we just lost souls living in a fishbowl. I guess we're vibrating the water around us that affects the whole tank under the dome or snow globe. Yeah, we better. Okay, here, so just another comment. Yeah, I noticed all the patterns around the circle had 12 points or duplicated 12 points, being 24. That is a very profound number. In all creation, 12 is the circumference of pi. What do you say to that?
I mean, this is also where you start to see these patterns replicate at different frequencies, and that's where you start to see the different where the quote unquote sacred geometry comes from,
Yes.
because whoever said that is right on. There was another study that was studying certain people chanting Om, and they saw the same thing. These 12, they kept seeing these 12 12 ridges or 12 points that showed up, and so these things that we see in nature, for example, where else do we see 12? We see 12 a lot of different places. The 12 disciples, the 12 zodiac signs, you know. And then with another frequency, for example, you'll start to see a pattern of, 7. And so that forms a different shape. That's exactly right. These are, and when you start to, geek out on it more, kind of like I do, the mathematics of it actually equal the shape, and they equal the sound, and they equal, it's all so divinely intricately connected. And you see these same shapes being recreated all throughout nature, that it brings a sense of awe, I think, awe and wonder, at the brilliance and the divinity behind the design that underlies everything that we see. And so, the deeper you go, like the more you observe, the more you come into contact with these types of things. It's like the more you study as well, it's the more you see that this whole creation is of God. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like, it's undeniable, and it's so brilliant. And the fact that we can retune our system to then um, affect a whole different reality, a whole different way of being, just through how we choose to use our voice. Never
Absolutely.
ever underestimate how powerful your voice is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the words that you say, that you speak to yourself and to those around you, and the intention with which you say them, the energy with which you put things out, is so important. Wow. And everything creates karma, you know. Karma is not some big man in the sky smacking you because you're bad to Dilly. Karma is really you putting out what you put out and literally reaping the rewards of that, whether it's positive or negative. So when you do things to someone and you think there's not a repercussion, rest assured there always is, and you'll know about that. And and it works in both ways. So whatever however much expansion is out there, from you as well, you're going to be reciprocal of that. Yay! So it's beautiful, Andy. What a beautiful discussion. I want to say thank you again so much for joining me. These are such important topics, guys. This is truly sacred information. If we can understand this in life, we'll heal ourselves. We'll create harmony in the best possible ways, going back to the ancient teachings and using them in this modern day world. So thank you, Andy. Not sure if there's anything you'd like to say just before we end off or in closing.
No, just don't be afraid to sing and use your voice, and the prayer. It really affects on a much even deeper layer than we probably fully comprehend. So,
absolutely,
yeah. God bless everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you guys for joining us for this beautiful conversation. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, share. This is really, really, really information that is so important for people to know. Find us on Facebook, BitChute, Twitter, Telegram, Odyssey, Rumble. Please find us there as well. We're moving more in that direction now. So yeah, take good care, everybody. God bless you all. We'll see you very soon. Andy, see you back in 2 weeks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks,
Cheers. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything, everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And I'm so happy to have back with me again Rachel Vaughan from Australia. I love you, Aussies. Got a lot of you on the show again. How are you, beautiful lady? Good to see you and good to have you back on ARA again.
Yes, absolutely. It's lovely to be back, Dylan. Lovely to see you and looking forward to this chat.
Indeed. We've just been having some time before we hit the record button. And we were talking actually about, gifts and abilities that often you guys that have been taken into the system we know through previous interviews and stuff that we've done, and not just with you, but all the other kids that are actually taken in have got amazing spiritual gifts. We know that the Dark Brethren are looking for that. So I know that you've had a myriad of those gifts as well. But I want to say, before we go there, maybe if you can just walk us through again what your life as a child was about. I know you had quite a shocking time with your father and your family and what happened in your life as a kid. So maybe you can just talk us through that again. How was that for you? What happened to you as a child?
So I grew up in Adelaide in South Australia, which has the rather unfortunate moniker of the murder capital of the world, which is interesting. It's not actually the truth, but it's certainly stuck. So there's been a series of murders and disappearances of children in my state over the 60s, 70s, 80s. Most notably, the disappearance of the Beaumont children, the family murders, and quite a few other disappearances that, supposedly were solved but aren't really solved properly because there's some patsies sitting around in jail for some of the murders that my father committed. So my father's been a person of interest in the Beaumont children disappearance, where 3 children went missing from Glenelg Beach in 1966. He admitted on camera in 2015 that he was involved, that his good friend Anthony Munro had brought the children to his home in Edwardstown, where I grew up, in the boot of a car, deceased. So he admitted to that. Interesting.
Can I just ask you how that happened, that he actually admitted to that? When you say on camera, what camera was this? Was he being interviewed? Was he being...
He was being interviewed, yeah. So he openly admitted it. Now, interestingly, that did find its way into a article that was an advertiser article, which advertises about the only paper that South Australia has. It's very controlled. And interestingly, there's one journalist that is allowed to write any kind of story about the Beaumont children, just one. He basically sits on that. And that's the case with the Beaumont children. There's certain major crime detectives that have sat on that case for a very long period of time.
Are they part of the system? Is this journalist bought and paid for? Are the cops that have got this case, are they bought and paid for? Because that's usually the situation, isn't it?
Well, I've been treated appallingly by those officers in the major crime department. I also witnessed murders, the murder of a child called Tracy Louise Bell. Another man sitting in jail for the murder that my father committed in front of me, because these major crime detectives were doing their thing. Interestingly, one of those major crime detectives admitted to my brother Andrew McIntyre recently that the only reason why they know that my father was involved with the Beaumont children's disappearance and murder, but they cannot investigate the property where their children are buried, which is one of my father's former properties in Stansbury on the York Peninsula, because of the Mulligan inquiry and the suppression order on that inquiry, which is an 80 or 90-year suppression order. I can never quite get the right number on that one. Now, interestingly, the Beaumont children weren't part of that. They're not part of the terms of reference for that inquiry. That inquiry was about state wards. And my father was very, very much involved with the disappearances and murders of countless state wards. I don't even know how many there were.
It seems like from what you're saying about your dad, did he have quite an influential position in...
Yeah, so I was just looking at his mother's credentials. She was in the who's who of women in multiple magazines in the 80s and 90s. She was a Justice of the Peace, an Order of Australia Medal recipient. She worked in government when women weren't even allowed to have a job. So she was very, very powerful. And apparently, I've been told, she was head of the Eastern Star Sect. Her father, Joseph Bright, was the Grand President of the Grand Lodge. So he was a very high up Freemason. And my father, I believe, was an ASIO operative, which is the equivalent of an MI6 or CIA operative, Mossad, that sort of thing. So he had impunity from prosecution. He just got away with it. He could do whatever he liked. Interestingly, also, we have Kennedy connection in the family. So my grandmother, the recipient of the Order of Australia Medal, she did our genealogy all the way back to a Catherine Kennedy, and then she stopped. She didn't bother to go any further past that. So it looks like we're part of the 13 Illuminati bloodline families. We have the central heterochromia as well, which is something that the Nazis were fascinated with. And you see a lot of people with heterochromia, different coloured eyes, either each eye is a different colour, or there's a central heterochromia where you have a different colour around the pupil than the rest of the iris. And this is my dear friend Doug McIntyre's research. The Nazis were actually experimenting on gypsies with that eye colour in the Second World War. They had a fascination for the occult, and they had a fascination for the fact that people with these unusual eye colours, I've got this eye colour, had psychic abilities. So there's a great deal of experimentation going on. And my father basically signed up his children for experimentation. I was part of the MK Ultra theatre, psychic programming. I was also experimented on medically, and I was trafficked through tunnels and exploited sexually.
When you say experimentation, can you clarify or maybe expand on what you mean exactly by what type of experimentation we're talking about here?
So are you interested in the medical experiments or the psychic experiments, or both?
Both, actually. I mean, I find this. I mean, and you know, when you said about your bloodlines and the Kennedys and part of the 13, I just got chills through my whole body. So that's my, as my mother always says, those are truth bumps. So it makes a lot of sense to me that he would have had, your dad especially would have had the clout he had, and especially if your mother was such a your grandmother rather, was such a powerful woman in government and stuff. I mean, I've no doubt that she was obviously put there. She, you know, she was used in her position to move and whatever it is they do, right? Wow. Now, if you can expand on both, that'd be great. I mean, I understand if there's certain things you can't talk about or what have you. I do respect that. So just as much as what you can, though.
Well, I've already spoken publicly about the prion experimentation. So I was one of the first people that came forward, and you know, it was a bit of a shock at the time when the article was published, but it was a very important article, and I'm glad it was published. My father had told me that there was going to be this zombie apocalypse. He told me this in the 1980s, actually 1983. He murdered this child in front of me, Tracy Louise Bell. When I finally got out of the underground cellar where this occurred, he chased me up. And he then proceeded to tell me that I had been experimented on with what he called at that time scrapie prions. And he had been experimenting on other children in the neighbourhood with these scrapie prions. So scrapie is a prion disorder in sheep, just like mad cow's disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is a prion disorder in cows. He had apparently signed me up for these experiments. He said at that stage, at 10, two attempts had been made. He actually explained that a lumbar punch that I'd been given at, I think it was 18 months, and I've got my medical reports, it was 1975, to prove that, was an attempt to infect me with prions. I managed to get through. There was a third attempt at 14, so another 4 years later, they tried again. Now, there's research documents out now that say that children don't come down with prion disorders. Well, I'm part of the research that they found out that children don't come down with prion disorders. So there's one of the experiments that I was used for. And, you know, prion disorders are horrific. They cause, you know, Lewy body dementia. There's a larger than normal number of people with Lewy body dementia in Adelaide. And I believe that had a lot to do with what my father was also involved with certain things that are pretty horrific. Other prion disorders are, like I said, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, mad cow, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So there's a large range of prion disorders. Now, I believe that a lot of that experimentation, so the prions that he actually used on me at age 14 were kuru prions from cadavers that were brought over from Papua New Guinea in the 1960s and 1970s. So I think it was 76 cadavers were brought over to the Adelaide Medical Centre in the 60s. And then they just did their experiments on from there. Other experiments that I was utilised for, I was used for catheterising so that medical students could learn how to catheterise a child. And that started when I was a toddler. So I was taken to a local medical centre house that was next to a butcher, that was next to a bakery, and a lot of really, really horrific things happened in that location. And interestingly, there was a boys' home, Glandor Boys' Home, just a few hundred metres down the road, and there were tunnels between the boys' home and the butcher and bakery. And then there were more tunnels from my house, which was just another couple of streets away, where there was an underground cellar, a bunker, and further tunnels that went even further afield to other bunkers. So the psychic experimentation, there was MK Ultra programming at home. I had a lot of that. But there was a facility that I was taken to from the age of being a toddler, where I was shown things like...
May I just ask, sorry to interrupt here, but I'm trying to understand, where's your mother when all this is going on? Is she part of it? Is she a bit of a sleeper? Was she actively participating? I know mothers sometimes actively participate, or they really are just hypnotized almost, or enchanted just to not
well,
even...
the sad thing is, she was a good mother. She tried. She did well. Sadly, she left me behind at 13. She ran away. She went off to have another life, and I was left with him, which was pretty difficult to deal with. But my father had rapid induction techniques. He could click his fingers at her and say a few words, and she would be somewhere else with her eyes open. Her eyes would be open. She'd just be staring straight ahead. She wouldn't move. She was in a fixed position. So she'd just sit there with her eyes open, and he could do anything to us in front of her. She would be completely oblivious. And then when he would wake her up, she'd be horrified. I wouldn't understand what had happened because we'd be all distressed. And I saw another of my family members, one of his family members, could do the same to her. So she did find out later in life that she's very hypnotizable. So she went to find out if that was actually the case. After my allegations came out and my siblings' allegations came out, she went to find out, is this true? And it's extremely easy to hypnotize her. So I don't think she was complicit in any way. It's very sad.
Yeah, you see that happening a lot though, don't you? With this sort of stuff. It also just brings to mind, Jesse's situation. There's so many people that have asked, when all this was going on with Jessie as a child, where were her parents? Yeah. And I think it's not, most people don't realize. I have not been in that situation, but for me, it's very believable that things like that happen, like with your mum and with Jessie's parents as well, that, her grandmother or proctor was such a powerful person, and that they literally drugged them, hypnotized them, did whatever to keep them asleep. And it makes such sense that, he was able to click his fingers, as you say a few words, and your mother would just immediately be, he was obviously a pro at what he did. Wow.
Yeah. But he also made mistakes.
I'm sure.
I think back with much amusement at the fact that he used to tell me after he'd abused me to lock my lips with a key and then swallow the key. And that only worked for as long as it took me to realise that I couldn't swallow the key after I locked my lips. And he was just horrified when he realised, and then I had to put it in the drawer, unlock the drawer and swallow the key. But by then, he'd undone the programming. So I think that's part of the reason why I've been able to recall so much of my childhood, because he was bad at doing certain things. With the psychic programming, most of that was other individuals. So he did some of the psychic programming, but not all of it.
Oh, right. So he was doing some of it for you, but mainly others were doing your psychic. Can I ask you who that was? Who are your programmers? Is that possible?
Well, one of those ended up being a family member, but I daren't say much more. Right. And that person now runs a derogatory Facebook group, sort of hiding behind another MK Ultra slave that's been trolling me for well over a decade. But yeah, I can tell from the posts that it's her posting because of the language that she's using. It's 100% her.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's great that you actually
put her name out there on that as well. She's put her name fully on those. she puts her name in the comments. So
wow.
Yeah.
So what type, when you say you were programmed psychically as well, can you expand on that? What type of programming were you given? I would imagine, though, that you would have been born with these gifts in any event, right? So it's not like they can give you gifts. These are your God-given gifts that you've been granted. And through their nefarious ways, they obviously have ways of picking up the kids basically who have these gifts because of the ways that they're testing and stuff like that. 100%. So they would then weaponize your gifts literally against you and against others. Yeah.
Yeah. So my mother is extremely gifted, and her father had a diagnosis of schizophrenia. But he went through what I believe was Tavistock abuses, because I was told at length about how he would be given electroshock therapy. They almost lobotomized him. He had gone through a war, but other family members said he never went through a war, but he had shell shock. And he would line his family members up in the middle of the night with a shotgun and threaten to shoot them in the head, not recognizing any of them. These are his children. So I think that he was gifted and obviously tortured and tormented, and she was extremely gifted. My father, I think, knew somehow that she had these abilities, maybe because of my grandfather's issues. And she was 16 years younger than him when he started seeing her. So there's this 37-year-old man and this 20 to 21-year-old girl who she hadn't even left home. She was ripe for the picking, basically. And she didn't know.
With his manipulative ways, he obviously mesmerized her and got her completely eating out of the palm of his hand, so to speak.
Yeah. So she didn't know he was married and already had 3 children when she was seeing him. Very interesting.
Wow. So he was married already, and then he got her, and then obviously did he get divorced, I would imagine?
No, he had his first wife murdered because he
I was
couldn't go
gonna
through a
say-
divorce because he had a bunker underneath the property that he built the house on. He built that house himself. He built the shed over the bunker. The bunker was at a lower level because the Wunderlich's terracotta tile factory had dug out all the clay in the area, and when they dug out the clay, they built their brick kilns and their terracotta tile kilns at the lower level, and then they brought fill in and put them over the top, and a lot of these kilns ended up being bunkers, and approved of the existence of the bunkers and the tunnels in that area a couple of years ago now, and put out all the evidence. So he had this bunker, he had tunnels, he had a hidden cellar. He couldn't lose the house. He would have if Margaret had survived. So Margaret died without an inquest. She died under very strange circumstances, 33-year-old woman, I believe, very young. And then my father promptly brought my mother into the home and told the neighbours that the child that he'd just impregnated with her with, my middle brother, was actually my 13-year-old sister's son. And this man also later had a relationship with a woman 2 streets away and had a child with her in the 80s before my mother left him. So God knows how many siblings I've got, quite frankly. That could be anywhere, there could be many of them. But yeah, that sibling turned up in 2012. And, it was clearly my father's son because he had my father's horrible hands. And they're very, very distinguished hands, horrible.
Yeah, I'm sure. Wow. How unbelievable, actually, to. Anyway, I hear these things and it just makes my stomach turn. And it's done so brazenly. And I always wonder about what the heck, Australia. There's so much there in Australia and it's so in your face. And I can't actually believe that so many people went through this. And it's it's not even hidden, man. It's right there, with all the survivors and overcomers I've spoken to in Australia over the years. It's just obvious that there's been a big mess going on there. And it's so, I remember speaking to some of especially the males who'd been in these, I think the one was Derek, especially Derek, the boys' home. It's all Derek.
Oh, yes.
And what they would say was there was not one adult who was on their side. There was not one adult they could go to. It was such a slick child or boys, this is particularly boys, trafficking operation. I mean, they were doing MK Ultra on the kids right there in the boys' home, trafficking them through some nightclub not far away. And that Ivan Milat, I think, that prolific Australian serial killer, was actually programmed by them to do what the kid did, when he was a youngster.
Oh, absolutely.
It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. Wow, Rachel, what a story, man. So, sorry, you were saying about going back to what you're saying about your psychic gifts being programmed. So what were you trained to do psychically for the system? And can I just ask you your age at this stage? How old were you?
All right, so I'm 50 now. I was born in 73. So my first memory of the psychic programming, I was still so small that my father had to hold me up. So I believe I wasn't able to stand for long periods of time or walk around at that point. He held me up and this woman in front of me in a white jacket was holding up these cards that had black markings on them. And they seemed very large to me, but they're probably, because I was only small, but they're probably, this wide and about that tall. Oh, sorry, about that tall. Someone said they may be Xena cards. They weren't coloured. They were just white with black markings on them. I was so young at the time that I had a dummy in my mouth. I was pre-verbal. I wasn't speaking. And so I had to point at the card or the symbol that the person in the next room was thinking or seeing. And that's one of the first memories that I had of that. Later, it was the aura reading. So my father wanted to know who he could trust. And so he'd ask me what the colours were around people, what their auras looked like, how did they make me feel. I learnt very early on that many of his friends had a brown aura. And it's interesting because a lot of people who are very dark have either an orange or a red aura. The sacral chakra gets corrupted. The base chakra gets corrupted. And so that's the frequency that you pick up on. The brown aura is the absolute muddying of the sacral chakra through horrific acts. And so, it's interesting. He even had a friend called Brownie who had a brown aura.
Interesting. The brown also, if you think the combination of the orange and the red would really give you that kind of muddy browny.
Yeah, and if you go into the whole, they do certain acts, particularly with the back end, to impregnate or bring demonic entities in. So a lot of these people do operate from those chakras because they're possessed by something very dark that controls them. And that doesn't mean that they, don't have responsibility for what they've done, because a lot of people like myself and many, many other survivors go through what we went through.
The lower triad. They were the solar plexus as well, I would imagine, because if you're looking at the solar plexus, which is your center of personal power, and when that's inverted, it's all about service to self, right? And being super controlling, super dominant dictators I would imagine, have quite a contaminated, if that's the word, solar plexus as well. Wow.
Some of the other things that I was used for was I was used in rituals to communicate with the entities that they were calling up. Either they were too cowardly and frightened to communicate with them, or they just didn't have the ability to pick up on what they were actually calling in. So I was used for that. And I was also used to predict things. So, quite often, a lot of the time he would be driving around in the car and I'd be in the back seat and he'd be asking me questions. I guess I was more dissociative because I was looking around and paying attention to what was going on around me. I was also usually in a traumatized state because when he drove me around on my own, it was usually to go somewhere to be abused, trafficked. I was used in child rape material. But he would ask me what was going to come up. He'd ask me about certain people. So he used me for a lot of different things. The hearing of the entities in the rituals was so horrific that I actually shut down my clairaudience, so I couldn't hear those things anymore. From about 5 or 6 was the last time I was actually used in a ritual in that way.
When you say the hearing of those those creatures in an audient way, was it the screams and things, the words? What was it that you were shutting down from?
So when we were talking before about, these, lower level demons and that they're just attached to people and they're not terribly scary. What they were actually calling up was much more powerful than that. And the sound of these entities is a bit like fingernails down a chalkboard. It's a screeching noise. The best description I could give you, it is. It's horrific. There's the footage of, I think it's George Bush Sr. speaking at Bohemian Grove in this very screechy sort of, I don't want to copy it, but it's similar to that. It's like he was emulating or copying the way that they sound at that ritual. And it hurts your ears. It's painful.
Yeah, I can well believe that. And yeah, your frequency is too high for that. So it would be absolutely, not something that your consciousness would be comfortable with, I would imagine.
No.
Wow, Rachel.
And they were not very happy about being called up either.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to be used by humans. They don't consider us worthy of communicating with. They certainly don't want to be in our dimension. So it's really interesting how the people that use these,
That's
I often wonder
very
how
interesting
stupid
what
can
you
these
say.
people be?
Yeah. So why do they allow themselves to be used then? If they don't really want to be used, if they're not enjoying the enjoying being in the human experience, why do they allow themselves to be called up and to be used?
It's interesting. So what these humans do, these people, would go into portals, crossing of ley lines being the meridian energy of the earth, and where they cross, they create these portals. The portals are doorways. So the ley lines are like fifth dimensional train stations where all the other dimensions come off. So they would conduct a ritual. They would murder something, an animal, child. The screaming would bring that entity to the doorway to suck up the loose energy, and then they would call it in through some sort of spell. Now,
Right.
I don't believe the entities wanted to come in. The death of the animal or child would open the doorway, and then they'd be
Wow.
forced in.
And obviously, and possibly that sex magic, because they'd be using sex magic a lot of the time as well. And that would also be opening that up. So it's really because they're feeding off the loosh, as you say, the blood, the fear, the pain, the suffering. And I was speaking to Lynn Monet last night, and she used that word. It's like chocolate to them. And I think there's no better description. I mean, I like chocolate. Okay. That might just be the thing that puts me off chocolate, I hope. I like too much chocolate, that's for sure. But as you say, it's like that would be like their chocolate, right? So and obviously the sex magic as well. I would imagine if there's ritual abuse going on, there would be, and especially with bestiality with kids, each other maybe.
And again, those lower two chakras connect, well, the base chakra connects to the sixth dimension of hell. So the more of that sort of activity in a ritual space would open that particular doorway. Because when the death occurs of whatever that entity is, that doorway that's opened is the one that's most prominent in that space, not the doorway that's appropriate for that child because of the spells and the incantations and the chanting and all of the stuff that they do.
Gosh, yes, so it's not necessarily the most appropriate, but it's the most prominent. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. What
We are multidimensional humans, multidimensional. Each chakra connects us to a dimension.
Exactly, it does. And then obviously, as you say, because of the trauma, the pain, the suffering, that's the doorway that gets opened. So it's the most prominent energy and energy that is active at that time. But it's not necessarily the most appropriate for the child. But nonetheless, they know how to do it. That's the thing. And then that's what would bring these hellish entities to the doorway, because it's feeding time.
It's really disturbing, because I've been photographing ley lines along the south coast of South Australia for the last 10 years, and it's only really come to me in the last 3 or 4 years that these poor souls that get murdered in these spaces, these good souls, kind of get stuck. It's kind of like a limbo.
Yes. So, I have seen that.
Oh,
I have seen that. And I would say to people, when, especially, you know me, I'm always criticized by the religious people because of what they think I represent, but nonetheless, that's them. But I would say, because especially when you're looking at speaking to people like Caleb, who's understood this, and there's the different levels of hell, and he talks about the realm of chaos. And I have seen, from a child, I have seen that realm. I have been in there. And I would see, and I would have pain in my heart, because I would know that these creatures that are trapped in there don't want to be there, but they don't know how to get out. And I would say that, when you're looking at religion, those are the lost souls that Christ wants to bring back. Yes. And it just makes, I mean, what you've said now just added another piece of the puzzle that just gives me clarification on exactly what I've been seeing since I can remember.
Yeah.
So it really is, and as you say, it's these beings, and many of them don't deserve to be there, but they've been sucked in or bewitched or pained or whatever. And then they're kept in this dimension where they actually do not know how to get out. So then the question I'm going to ask you, sorry, that's just my phone, which I should have put on silent. So the question I'm going to ask you then is, from your experience, what would be the best way to help these stuck souls that are caught in this dimension of chaos back into God's light?
So that's where I've just learnt this term, psychopumping. Didn't know that.
Psychopumping.
Pumping apparently. So I know a gentleman who's prolific writer, and he explained the term to me. He knows a lot of psychics. So there are certain people who have the ability to set souls free.
Yes.
And I'm working with a gentleman called Ben Hawkes at the moment on a project called Lay Love Down, as in Ley, Love Down, where we're trying to encourage people to use beautiful sound frequencies in the ley lines,
right,
to reprogram them, because the Satanists go into those ley lines and those portals, and they program it for death and misery and torture. They call in these entities. They make these poor little souls, these light souls that they're murdering, stuck. So we need to change the frequency. And by changing that frequency, we can actually bring the third dimension into the fifth.
Right, so I love that.
Ley lines are actually fifth dimensional.
I love that, because for me, I don't know if I should say this on here, but that's often what I've done as well, is being able to open up spaces for to free certain stuck energies.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it there. But one thing that works really well is the Tibetan singing bowls, the sound and the frequency and the vibration that enables that. So now, and it just again makes perfect sense that, as a kid, even as I'd go in there, not even in a dream state, and I'd be walking in there and I'd have my little lion under my arm, because that was my protection, I guess, and I would hear the screaming of these birds. I would hear see these big baboon things with teeth, just fire and smelling and howling, and just this crazy, desolate space. That was just, but I knew that whatever was caught in there didn't want to be in there and didn't know how to get out. So it's actually quite amazing. Yeah.
Because we need more people doing that work. And it's interesting, those singing bowls are 6th, 7th, 8th dimensional high light soul frequency. So what you're doing is you're actually opening the portal with the high frequency. So that's what we're asking for people to do, to join. Like, obviously there's some really powerful light souls like yourself who can do that much more powerful work. But anybody can go out into a ley line and play 432 hertz or 528 hertz, high frequency sound, tuning forks, sing. We've actually got a song called Time to Rise. So, and that's on the website. We've got a website as well, leylovedown.com. And you can use that song if you want to sing into the ley lines at any time. You don't have to go out in groups of people, but groups of people do make it more powerful.
Absolutely. Obviously that group energy, for sure. I fully agree with that. Wow, that's actually quite amazing, because singing bowls is actually something I taught myself how to play. And, in my healing work, I literally lay them around and on top of the person's body. Yeah. So the vibration, and I want to tell you, and of course I see beyond the physical, and I would literally see how I would play certain frequencies, and you draw these entities out. You literally draw them out of people. It's like uprooting a weed. You can't just cut it off like a lawn. It's going to grow and it's going to expand. It's going to get stronger. It's like cutting the head of something off and suddenly 10 other heads pop up, right? You've got to uproot it. In Buddhism, they call it the Shankaras of the mind, the misery. So you uproot the misery, and then I just send it back into the light. That's the way I've always done that. I just give it back to God. God knows what to do with it. So, I mean, it's amazing because it's so the sound is and the vibration, because our bodies are created from sound, frequency, and vibration. So the vibration that we work with is so powerful. So it really
And
is
those
amazing.
entities cannot
Yeah.
exist in frequency.
No, they
So I've actually
can't.
seen it done, and it's like a tar body being pulled out, and usually humanoid in shape. I've actually seen
Yes.
it done. It's quite spectacular. So I know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And they're like parasites, and they like draw in to the human psyche or consciousness, or it's not a physical thing in the physical body, but it's and it's amazing when one starts seeing what that is. Wow, how incredible. It's really great to know that you guys are doing that stuff as well. So yeah. And it's absolutely, the lower triad. And I mean, Bryce, we speak about the organic portals, which is really people, they are unsouled. They're literally coming in and they're only operating from their lower three chakras. They don't know how to operate from heart and above. And, so it makes a lot of sense, that's exactly. And yet, I mean, there are people that are not the organic portals, right? They also operate from there, but they've chosen to go fourth dimension or 4D negative as opposed to positive, right? So it's amazing how, and this is what I say, it's not about fighting a war. It's about understanding how to undo what's been done. And one cannot do that with anger, with violence, because when you meet violence with violence, you just create more violence, right? So it's about coming from that heart space and literally opening up the heart center and knowing how to do it, and just like literally working from the heart. And when you work from the heart, when you operate, because as the Buddhists say, the mind is in the heart, right? The brain is in the heart, basically. So when you start operating from the heart space, that's when you start knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it, at what point to do it. You're so completely divinely guided that it's not even a question. You just know what to do and where to go, and the right people will just kind of find their way to you, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. So that heart, that gut connection, that intuition, that deep sense, I know, the direction that you're supposed to go in. It's interesting that the last 4 years have certainly also heightened humanity's desire to find what their soul purpose is. I've seen that in countless clients over the last 4 years. It's just this driving force, and I believe it's because we're coming up to what I would consider a golden age. I actually consider that the dark forces have already lost. That is my opinion.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I do believe they have, and it's like that last whip of the dragon's tail. It's like the hardest, and and it's like a kid that knows it's lost its toys, or those are not its toys, or it's been caught out stealing somebody's stuff, and now you got to give it back, but now they're just going to break it first before they leave, you know what I'm saying? So they're trying to do as much distraction as but also, what I believe, Rachel, it's us moving through these densities, it's us, and it's a challenge for us to raise our frequency sufficiently so that we don't get caught up in the webs of the lower densities. Because when you raise your frequency, you can't get caught up in the lower dimensions. But then it is our purpose, because we're living in a fallen world, it is our purpose, those of us that have managed to find our way through there, and finding our way through there is to literally open up the pathways for others to find it a lot easier, because it's horrific what goes on in these places. I mean, you would know firsthand. I mean, thank God I have not experienced what you have, and I'll always be grateful for that. But I'm very grateful for you that you've been there, come out of it, and literally showing others how to come out of it as well. So it's, you You really are a blessing. You and many others like you as well. I feel really amazed to meet so many brave people on this channel. That's for sure.
Thank you for providing us a voice, darling, because we couldn't do it without you either. But it's interesting. I get great joy because I'm very obstinate. I get great joy out of knowing that their programming didn't work, and it must piss them off immensely. Like I said, my programmer she must spend a lot of time on that Facebook page. At a time where she should be retired and enjoying herself, but she's not. So,
And she's still harassing you. I mean, that, or trying to anyway. I mean,
trying to.
it must just show you how, I mean, I say this so often, these people who do that kind of crap, their lives must be so miserable, just to absolutely make you the focus of their attention, as well, that they've got nothing else to live for other than making other people's lives a misery. I mean, I say the same about my harassers. I mean, obviously working with Jesse and everything as well. I mean, my gosh, the trolls are a dime a dozen. And the threats, you get the threats and you get the memes sent out about you. And you get, the insults and the rumors and it's like, whatever, people, have you not got anything better to do? You must lead a very miserable life. If I'm the focus of your attention, it's crazy.
And the interesting thing is, it hasn't stopped you, has it? Like, it hasn't stopped me. It's actually given me more impetus. If I hadn't had the trolling, I wouldn't have put out the 4 vlogs that I did of all the evidence that supports that my father did the things that he did. And, through his friends, through his very, very close friends are convicted pedophiles now. One's doing 18 years. And this is someone who lived in his pocket. So... that there's so much evidence.
When was he arrested? When was he actually arrested?
So John Pike was arrested in, 2 or 3 years ago. Anthony Munro went away in 2016. He only came back to Australia from Cambodia, where he was funding orphanages and running a composting business, which is a horrific combination for someone who's a person of interest in the disappearance of the 3 Beaumont children, and whom my father said brought them to our house, deceased in the boot of a car. He only came back to Australia because vigilantes were hunting him in Cambodia and he didn't have enough protection. So, but he came back and he faced the music. And there's also a convicted chief inspector of police who was a close friend of my father who did time. He abused me as well, and he was involved in child rape material, procurement of that, with missing children, while he was a chief inspector of police. But my allegations against him aren't being heard. Very frustrating. But again, there's that suppression order, so
Yeah. Every dog gets his day. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about dogs because they're usually so much nicer than humans. In fact, they always are. But every dodgy one gets his day, and I think I'm just happy that I don't have their karma, because man, oh man, that is a horrific karma to bear. It's going to take a trillion lifetimes to start balancing that out, because I do believe fundamentally we all find our way back into the light again. That's for sure. But only once we've really balanced things out in such a way that, I mean, your own soul knows when you have balanced out your karma. It's not God punishing you. It's when your soul has balanced out its karma. And very often you're going to put yourself through the same thing as what you put others through, so that you can feel what you've inflicted upon them, right?
Absolutely.
So, in that way, I mean, and I would, but I would definitely like to have you back again to talk about the ley lines, and obviously to talk more, because I think the chakras is something we can certainly talk more about as well, because I think that's such an important, most people see chakras as a new age thing, and I'm always being, my ladies, I'm being accused of being a new age groomer. Whatever that is. But I'm a very well-known new age groomer, apparently. I'm like, whatever, guys, you give me way too much credit. You've been reading too many Flash Harry comics.
Well, the thing with the new age is there were prophecies for this time before that was even conceived of.
Exactly.
So how can it all be New Age except that that was co-opted again so that people would disbelieve it, distrust it, so that,
It's
you know,
a, it's it's a cabal term. It's a cabal term again to create confusion, and it's like what most of the people that are actually spewing that nonsense out, they don't realize they're falling straight into that trap of the cabal of accusing people of being that. You know, I mean, but I think what they mean is it's like old toxic positivity, you know, love and light, you just lie under the tree and whatever. That I don't agree with that. I agree
no.
that you have to work with energy, you have to chill, you have to trust, you have to step back, you have to get balance, you've got to do all sorts of things. Your energy's got to be right, and you've got to do what it takes to get your energy right, but you don't sit there inactive and, you know, whatever. I mean, I don't even know what people think most of the time. But anyway, chakras is, there's no ways that we can deny that the body has chakras. The question is, what are they used for, and how are we supposed to use them? Because unless we know how the chakras operate and how they can work for us, because they are part of us when we unlock the doorways, if you will, to the chakras, then your body becomes your spaceship. You don't need anyone fetching you the spaceship. Your body is your spaceship. And it's not even that you're going to fly around in it. You just move in a way that you're in the right place at the right time, you know. So who knows what happens? Maybe you will start flying. I don't know. But right now, this is, you know, it's about understanding the power that we hold within these incredible bodies that we have, because your body is the manifestation of your spirit. It is your spirit and physical. And when we get that, we then get to realize how powerful it is and how beautifully the body is designed to heal itself. So then but we've got so much to learn around that before we even begin to ascend to the higher levels, right? And it's just about realizing the potency of who we as humans actually are. The first thing we have to start doing is resurrecting our consciousness. And in that way, we expand our consciousness.
Yes, keep away from fluoride, keep away from pesticides, you know, do not drink the fluoridated water. It was used in the Nazi concentration camps to dumb people down. It destroys the pineal gland. It makes it impossible to tune in psychically. You know, we've got these little tiny quartz crystals in our pineal gland that tune us into the Akashic record. It's our electromagnetic transmitter, you know, and we need that. So, and it also interferes with the circadian rhythm, so people can't sleep if they don't have a healthy pineal gland. Yeah, it's a neurotransmitter.
And it's so many, like the foods we've been given, you know, the excess of sugar, the excess of everything, you know, the disconnection through our technology and all this technological equipment. We've got to find balance, you know. I mean, how many times have we just seen kids walk around the streets, head in the phone, and it's completely disconnecting them from so many things, you know. And that's one of the first things we have to start changing. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done. But it's simple. I didn't say it's easy. Simple doesn't mean it's easy. But when we go back to basics, we realize how simple it is to actually get back to who we are intended to be. And we can just let a lot of this garbage go and just be who we are meant to be, what God has intended for us. But I want to just know before we end off for today, what is your take, obviously, on your psychic gifts? You have your beautiful psychic spiritual gifts, and even if they were enhanced in the system and what have you, how do you use your gifts in your work that you do today? You know, there's a lot of questions around it, and please, it's not me that's saying it, but I know there's a lot of people who ask it, and I'd love to hear your take on it. To be psychic and to use your gifts is evil, right? We hear this time and time. It's witchcraft. It's witchcraft.
It's a question I hear a lot, and it's interesting because quite a few survivors who've had that sort of training then divorce themselves from it and say you cannot use them because you're still being part of the program, you're still being called on, which I disagree with thoroughly, because I had those gifts before they were abused. it's my middle finger to the MK Ultra controllers that I'm now using them for good and to make my life fulfilled. I do get some pushback from, I love Christians, but there are some fundamental Christians that are very judgmental, which I find very confusing, because Jesus Christ, their Lord and Savior and mine as well, was a alchemist. He could transmute materials. He was a prophet. He said, follow in my footsteps, do as I do. So I don't really understand why using your psychic abilities would be considered evil when he used his. He also rose from the dead. So, you've got some really amazing gifts there, which a lot of MK Ultra survivors also rise from the dead. So, there's a lot of similarities there. What I am seeing is interesting. I don't believe in Jesus Christ coming back as an individual, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but what I see is a lot of souls reaching a Christ consciousness level.
Right.
And I believe that he foresaw that and knew that that was going to happen. So I see the second coming as all of these souls all together coming to this very high frequency to fight the satanic forces and to win that war.
Right.
So I don't think it's evil to use gifts. I think we were given those gifts. I think if we just sit around twiddling our thumbs saying, oh, no, it's too scary and a priest has to do everything for me, the Satanists have won. They have got all the power and they use it against us, and we're just fodder. It's stupid.
I've always said the church is the infiltrator. It is the infiltrator into the average human being. With all the books that they've taken out of the Bible, with the way that they've subtly changed the Bible, and the programming that goes on in a lot of the churches. I mean, if we look at the Illuminati system, it's made up of the 5 pillars: Mormons, Masons, Catholics, Kabbalah, and Satanists. So there we got churches all over the place, right? And that church indoctrination, unfortunately, is exactly. I mean, and it's so true what you say. Jesus was the master alchemist, right? He did rise from the dead. I mean, when you're reading at the missing books of the Bible, he even taught his disciples yoga, because he understood.
Thank you. I didn't know that one. That's fabulous.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And he really, and I always say to people, and they're so sick of hearing me saying this, I don't care, I'll keep saying it, is that the minute you keep throwing your Bible verses at me, it tells me one thing: you have not even begun to integrate or apply the teachings of Christ. Because Jesus did not walk around with a Bible bashing everyone. He was the living word. He was God's word in action. Right? So he acted upon God's desires to be this amazing, incredible gifted human being. And those gifts lie locked up within the chakras and within the cells of our body. So as we unlock the chakras, and in other words, unlock our consciousness, our cells, that's when the dormant DNA starts connecting, and we start raising our vibration, we start raising our frequency, we then start becoming divine humans as well as Christ was, right? So I think that's really what we should be aiming towards and working towards. So yeah, I've loved our conversation.
The Christians are beautiful, beautiful people. I mean, they really mean well.
Yeah, there's so many. I know beautiful Christians, but I always say, God is not asking for religious nuts. God wants spiritual fruit, right?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
So let's not be a religious nut.
No. Don't worship anybody. There's no worship.
Exactly. I mean, honor those that have walked the path before you. Love and, use their way as an example if that's what you need. Use them to be an inspiration for the life you choose to live, because there are many beautiful inspirational beings, that have walked this planet and are still walking this planet. So let's use them as our inspiration. But as you say, you don't have to bow down to anyone else. It's really up to us to make the change. And as you say, Jesus is not coming back as an individual. Jesus has taught us how to save ourselves, and we need to apply the teachings of Christ, because that's what's going to save us at the end of the day. It's going to raise our frequency so that we're not in the grips of hell anymore. That's simple for me. But I'd love to chat to you again. So I hope we can do that. And in the meantime, Rachel, I want to say thank you so much for being with me today. It's been a long time, and it's great to have you back again. And I look forward to chatting with you again. Is there anything else you'd like to say just in closing before you?
No, but just thank you for having me on, darling. I really appreciate it, and I hope to do it again sometime soon.
Most definitely. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a beautiful day. Give us a like, share, subscribe. This is such important information to get out there, and look forward to seeing you very soon again. God bless you all, and take good care.